A little bit about Philip Crosby. He was probably very recent for most of us. He's not the only one in this total quality management, but he became famous for writing the book Quality is Free. It isn't, but compared to the alternative, it pays. Among other things, Philip Crosby defined quality as zero defects. The problem is that trying to define what quality is quite difficult. And instead, it's probably easier to define what it is not. It is not something with defects in it. Now, whatever is defined to be a defect, it goes to that. And Crosby's argument was that the measure of quality is defect-free. Now, that then enabled him to put a price on it because, again, the same question always was asked. Well, if we put in all this money into, if we are investing in improving quality and managing quality, how do we measure the returns? Well, the returns were measured in terms of the price of non-conformance. So again, it's in terms of cost avoided rather than cost gained. It's not so much the return, but the absence of a cost. Now that comes to the question about quality is free. It happens that there have been several studies looking at the investment in quality management and the returns throughout the organization. That is, the returns in terms of reduced production time, and that was something that Edwards Deming argued quite significantly. That is, in fact, it's faster to do it right first time than it is to mess about, get it wrong, and try to fix it. So if you invest in quality management, your manufacturing runs much more smoothly. Now you can see that in software development, where a little bit invested in inspections of the requirements, for example, and review of the requirements mean that the architecture has less problems and has less corrections to be done to it, and less retrofits, and less downstream problems because the architecture isn't quite right. So investing in better quality practices, particularly early in the phases of particularly a software development project, has quite significant consequences later down the track. So, as I say, there have been various studies of the returns of return on investment and quality management, and most of them come in at around about either 4-to-1 or 8-to-1. That is, a 400% return on investment or an 800% return on investment. Now, given when financial advisors are going after, say, a 5 or 7% return on investment, 400% return on investment sounds pretty good, and in theory that's doable. In practice, it could be a little bit harder to achieve, depending where you are on the spectrum of what is achievable in the first place. As I say, he wrote the book Quality is Free, and he was addressing it mostly to manufacturers who hadn't actually got the message on quality management. It's probably still quite relevant even in software development, because although we know an enormous amount about quality management in software development, not everybody is aware of that, and not everybody is a professional software developer. So most of the time we're dealing with people who are essentially not professional software developers and do need to become professional. In those cases, the return is significant. For those who are already very professional software developers, then the return is not quite so much. Now, a little story about Philip Crosby. In one of his videos, and I don't know whether it's on YouTube or not, he was talking about quality management. And he had been quite a successful consultant, and as he explained, with all the travel and the strange hours and diet and eating, drinking, smoking, he had a heart attack. When he was in hospital, lying flat on his back on the bed, feeling very sorry for himself, his doctor leaned over him and said very seriously, if you keep this up, you will die. No ifs, no buts. No, you continue doing this, you will die. So Phil Crosby had a little think about this and thought, well, he didn't particularly want to die, so he had better change his habits. And he started with drinking. Now, it wasn't as if he was alcoholic or a particularly heavy drinker, just that he enjoyed a drink with his meals and enjoyed a drink with his colleagues. And he decided that he would have to cut down his drinking. And then the question was, well, what do you mean by cut down, and how do you cut down? Particularly when there were so many social functions he had to attend and so many networking functions. So he thought, well, maybe he could have a drink on special occasions. But he decided that no, he couldn't. If we're talking about cutting down the drinking, it's very hard to decide what is allowable, what is sufficient, what is adequate. So he pursued his own theory of zero defects, said, right, no drinking at all. That then was a very clear criteria. Either he had a drink or he didn't have a drink. And so he decided not to have a drink. Now that's an illustration of the type of person that Phil Crosby was. I understand that he recovered, he became much more healthy, and he enjoyed quite a long and enjoyable, fruitful life after that particular incident. But he was quite an amusing storyteller in that. So that was Phil Crosby with his most famous contribution, "Quality is Free."